Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, October the 18th, Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to call forward the Reverend Tom Wilson for an invocation. Reverend, good to see you as always. Thank you for being here.
Let us be still for a moment and be aware that behind all the things that we think are real, the things that we touch, smell, see, hear, there is a spiritual dimension. We gather together today as part of the governing process. The spirit behind that is not about who wins elections or who placates the most friends, but creates the strongest government for the welfare of all the people. Open our hearts and our minds and our imaginations that we might see the spirit behind all things, to discern the spirit that is here. We give thanks for the people who work for this county. We give thanks for the chance to have elections in all the municipalities of this county. We give thanks that we are able to talk to each other rather than just posture. We give thanks that Human Services has the idea to come up with bright ideas to bring new and better ways of being stewards of this world. We ask your blessing upon this session, that we may walk in your way and dance in your joy. This we ask. Amen.
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 Thank you, Reverend Wilson. May we stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. County Manager.
Good evening, everyone. Item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's opening remarks.
Thank you, County Manager. Just have one item to discuss this evening. Most of you know Miss Virginia Tillett passed away, and Miss Virginia touched my life in a memorable way, as she did so many others in our community. She was a sweet woman who cherished her family and loved Dare County in a very special way. She will long be remembered for the passionate way that she promoted education for the life-changing impact she has had on generations of students and so many others in Dare County. Miss Virginia was elected to the Dare County Board of Commissioners in 2002, where she served as a commissioner for 12 years. I had the pleasure of serving with her last 2 years on this board. Prior to being elected to Dare County Board of Commissioners, Miss Virginia served in positions of both the chair and vice chair of the Dare County Board of Education for over 20 years. Miss Virginia was a recipient of numerous awards over the past several decades, where she served as a commissioner, once again, as I said, for 12 years. Those recipients of awards included the Dare County Outstanding Citizen of the Year Award, the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year Award, and the prestigious Order of the Long Leaf Pine Award. Most recently, Miss Virginia was recognized for her extraordinary accomplishments and dedication and service and leadership by the North Carolina Black Alliance, which presented her with a 2021 Trailblazer Award at its virtual summit that they held just this past April. In May of 2021, Current TV released a video honoring the life and many contributions of Miss Virginia as an Outer Banks native and longtime community leader. I would encourage you to watch this video and learn more about Miss Virginia and her tireless service to our community. You can find it on youtube.com. Watch. Just go to YouTube and hit watch and dial in Virginia Tillett, and you will see it. It's a great video. A wonderful lady, a true friend that I surely will miss. And at this time, I would like to ask us for a moment of silence. Thank you. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, items 2, 3, and 4 are public hearing opportunities. The first of these is a public hearing with regard to the buffered standards for the travel trailer park and campground ordinance. Our planning director, Donna Creef, presented that to you all at the last meeting and went through that with you. In your packet are some of the details as well. Now's the time that you all set for that public hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have signed up for that public hearing, when you come to the podium and speak, please come, state your name and where you're from. You have 5 minutes to speak. There's a red light that will come on when your time begins. There's a yellow light that comes on when you have about a minute left. And when the green light comes on, you need to conclude your remarks. On the sign-up sheet for the travel, if you're here for anything other than the travel trailer park or campground ordinance, please wait until we get to that public hearing before you speak. On my list for this one is Joe Thompson.
Joe, good to see you and welcome this evening.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. I'll make it brief. I'm the applicant for this ordinance change, the text amendment. When we were going through the application process and the conditional use permit for the RV park, this actually came up during the planning board meeting and also with you guys in terms of the vegetative buffer, but it was clear that to go back and change anything at that time would mean a very, very different timetable. So we just kind of rolled with it and said, well, we'll figure it out as we go along. And lo and behold, this summer we found ourselves coming to a grinding standstill with the park as we could not get the materials we needed due to supply chain issues. So once we hit the brakes, I said, well, perhaps this will be a good time to go back and address this item. In essence, my request has little or anything to do with vegetation buffer or privacy issues with adjoining properties. It really has to do, for us, at least our instance, with buffering with ourselves. We have about 600 feet of area that we would have to buffer with our own property and our own operations, and that in and of itself is not really the issue. The issue for us is that in order to do so, the application of it and execution of it is really not workable due to a variety of issues. One's parking area, one is the septic field. So I brought it back to Donna and said, hey, Donna, can we look at making some adjustments to this this language to make it a little bit more flexible and making a little bit, what I would say is a little bit more common sense to it. And Donna's been great to work with, and that's why we're here today.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak to the travel trailer park ordinance? Anybody else here for that purpose? Is there anyone in Buxton would like to speak to that issue?
No comment from Buxton.
Mr. Chairman, with that, we would close the public hearing, and it's before you all to take what action you deem appropriate.
Okay, I'll defer to the board and ask the board if they have any questions. No one? Then what will be the pleasure of the board this evening?
I'll make a motion to revise the buffered standards for the TTPCO and have it adopted as recommended by the planning board.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tobin. It's been seconded by Commissioner Couch and Vice Chairman Overman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those then in favor of the motion before them, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, item three on the agenda is similar. This is a public hearing that you all set at the last meeting with regard to section 22-58.5 with regard to food stands and mobile food units. And again, our planning director, Donna Creef, presented that at the last meeting. She's here if you have questions about it, but for now, we'll conduct the public hearing and then come back for the pleasure of the board. Again, anyone that's here that would like to speak to that issue, the same rules that I described a moment ago will apply. On my list, I have, it looks like Stephen Bonney.
I'm sorry, name again?
Stephen Bonney.
Bonnie? Okay, come on, Mr. Bonnie. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. How are y'all?
Fine.
Good.
Thanks for having us. My name's Stephen Bonney. My wife and I, Sue, back there, we own Stu's food truck on Joe's property there at the pier. And what my understanding is we're kind of wanted to get this, instead of having a food truck, we want a couple of food trucks. I think it'd be a great idea to have more than one food truck on this property. I think there's plenty of room for all of us. I think there's probably more seats needed for dinner around 5 o'clock in Hatteras anyway. Competition's great. It just makes everybody better. Danny, how'd you like your tacos the other day?
Oh, awesome.
Good deal.
I'll be back.
We've been there. Joe gave us opportunity to get at his spot about 3 years ago. And ever since, business has been going up and up and up. It's a great location. I think it'd be a great spot, like I said, for some other folks to have the opportunity to put a food truck there. Maybe alleviate a little bit of the pressure. Like I said, at dinner time in Hatteras, tough to find a spot in July anywhere. You go at 5 o'clock, you might sit at 8, for dinner. So hopefully we can, help a little bit on that. And the spot is just, so to speak, to die for. It's a beautiful spot right there at the foot of the pier. Folks love coming there and being able to grab a little bit, go to the beach or 100 yards from the beach. I think it's kind of a throwback to the old days. It's kind of nice. It's you can get a little something to eat and sit right there in the sun with your family. It's a beautiful spot. I hope y'all approve it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bonnie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, I have Luke and Natalie Harris.
The Harris family, welcome.
Hi,
like
thank you.
I see you brought the whole family.
We did.
All
yeah.
right.
I like it.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Luke Harris. This is my wife, Natalie Bernadette McNeil. We've just relocated to the Outer Banks in June.
Well, then welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We love it here.
Well, you came at the right time, I can tell you that, with all the people here.
Yeah.
So we moved down. We have our own food truck. Our business is called Roots and Leaves. We're currently at
Beach Club.
At Beach Club across the road from Pangaea and near Stu's, but on the next commercial lot there. We think it would be beneficial for this to move forward. Food trucks it's a model where competition actually helps. It's where we can actually benefit each other by having more of us together. As Mr. Bonney mentioned, finding somewhere to eat peak season is rather challenging. I don't think we're actually going to be attracting any business from the bricks and mortar establishments in the area. I think we're just going to actually provide more venues to eat, hopefully make tourists happy, keep them coming down here for more and more. We love it too. We don't want to go anywhere. We enjoy the community. We love living here. We've got a couple of fundraising events we're involved with coming up later this month, and we just want to do what we can to help support and be a part of it.
Did you have a good season since June?
Fantastic season since
Yes,
June.
it hasn't really slowed down
quieted down.
either,
So that's
so-
great.
That's what Commissioner Couch tells me.
Yeah,
Tells me that Hatteras Island's booming just like the northern beaches. So,
yep.
It is.
great. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Joe Thompson.
Welcome back again, Joe.
Thank you, guys. Again, I'm the applicant here for this text amendment. My dad always told me there's only two kinds of deals worth doing, and that's win-win and no deal at all. And my wife asked me a couple years ago when we first started with Steve and Sue, which is where Stu's comes from, you know, why I wanted to put the time and energy to make this happen. We already have a full-service restaurant, and we got the pier and the spa and this and that. We got a lot going on. And I said, well, I think it would help them. I think it would help Steve and Sue. And in turn, I think it helps the community. And in turn, it helps us. I think that's the way life really works, and that's the way all things in life, I believe, should work. You know, so one of the first things I told Steve and Sue when they came on the property is I told them, I said, one day you won't be the only food truck here. So don't get upset and don't be fearful. Don't come from a place of scarcity, come from a place of abundance. And this summer, Luke and his family kind of crossed my path, and I said, hey, I may have an opportunity for you. And it quickly became obvious that, my first concern was, you know, would everybody get along? And it took no time at all before Sue was running over to Roots and Leaves to borrow something, and they were running back over to Stu's, and they were switching out food and sending customers to each other. That's how food trucks are supposed to work. When they work together, a family or a couple walks up, and husband may say, hey, I want to get hot dogs, and the wife says, well, I want to go get a vegan wrap or whatever. They want options and choices, and they want to go back to the same picnic table and share that. If we can do that as a community, I think the food truck concept is really just somewhat of a snapshot of how we need to be doing more things as a community. And when I say that, I think the Outer Banks does a remarkable job taking care of each other and ourselves. I've been on the island for 36 years, and the reason why I'm still here, yeah, I surf, I love the beach, I love all those things, but the reason why I'm still here is because of the people. Mm-hmm. And we do a great job taking care of ourselves and each other. And as we move forward, we need to continue to stay focused on that. If there's one thing I learned during the whole COVID pandemic, reality chapter, is don't fear the unknown. Don't fear what's next. You just never know what it is. Very little of it you can control. And so if we open up our minds and we open up our hearts and create these opportunities for other folks, nothing but good things will come of it. That's the reason why we put this application in. We think it's a solid application. Again, I want to thank Dawn and her staff. They're amazing to work with. And with that said, I hope you find wisdom in voting for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
That's all I have signed up. Would anyone else here like to speak to that issue? Anyone else here for that? Anyone in Buxton speak to that issue?
No comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we would close the public hearing. If you have questions, Donna's here. If not, then it's before you for your action.
Absolutely. I will ask the board if there are any questions of the board. Commissioner Bateman?
Joe, can I ask you a question? So, first, I like your philosophy. I mean, and I like what you're trying to do down there. And I believe that you got the greatest intentions in the world. What I question is, in your opinion, and the opinion of the two fine folks out there, they're working their butts off down there, is 5 going to be too many? Is that enough? Is it, do you have the infrastructure, everything there that would hold 5 food trucks on that property? Because this is not only for your property, it's also other areas it could possibly go into.
That's a good question. The number 5 was, I hate to say it, but was somewhat arbitrary. We chose that number because it just seemed like it was the number, a handful. There was no magic behind it. We did talk about it in length, and I spoke about it in length with Donna, and Donna spoke about it in length with her board, that when you apply all the different parameters that are required for food trucks and the food truck court, the parking standards, and what it takes to just qualify for that to begin with, then, and I know this is not really the conversation, but there is an overlaying piece here, which is the health department. So when you overlay the health department requirements, commissary kitchens and everything else, it becomes a fairly narrow focus. It funnels down pretty quickly in terms of, how many properties would actually qualify for it, on paper, let alone how many pieces of property would actually sustain it economically. In terms of, I can only speak really about our piece of property. We have an abundance of parking. We have all the sewage, water, power, septic, the whole thing is in place. So for us, the obstacle or the hurdle, if you will, is obtainable. I can't really speak about every other piece of property that this affects on the Outer Banks, but I don't think you're going to see this pop up all over the place. Between what it would take in order to accomplish that, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 5 years, the number of food trucks?
8.
8 in the last 5 years have applied county-wide. But, I mean, that's the wisdom of the board. If y'all feel like that a smaller number is more suited, I'm not going to resist that in the least. I do think, on the other hand, if you will, that, again, the court is by nature needs a certain level of variety or even scale, if you will, in order for it to function properly, to fulfill that court reality. So that the ball is in y'all's court on that one, but that's how we got to 5.
I like your thinking, and as I told someone, there's a reason that Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Burger King all go to the same area, 7-Elevens, because it generates enthusiasm, also brings different groups of people to our area. So I'm behind you 100%, but I had to ask that question because I don't want this gentleman here to all of a sudden look up and he has 5 food trucks there, and instead of doing this amount of number of business, he's down in business, because we don't want to see that happen anywhere.
I also believe that if economically it's unsustainable, the food trucks, they all have wheels on them, and they will leave. They'll travel elsewhere to wherever it's more, abundant. I think to a large degree that's self-regulated. I do think it's worth considering. Again, 5 was somewhat of just a number we pulled out of the air.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The verbiage states that it's up to 5.
Up to 5.
And the parameters and rules that surround what allows you to get to whatever number, be it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, are going to dictate how many you have there. And market forces are going to take care of the rest of it.
Also, when you look at some of the staffing shortages that we've had to deal with, you don't have that with a food truck. This, the planning board vetted this pretty good, and there's not a whole lot of properties that this is actually germane to, but I can be it's the only home I've ever known, and it'll work there. I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or concerns from the board? All right, thank you, Joe. Excuse me.
So I'll make a motion.
All right.
Motion to adopt, move to draft amendment section 2258.5 be adopted as drafted. Statement of consistency of reasonable doubt as prepared by the staff is adopted as part of this motion.
Second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Bateman, for that motion. It's been seconded by the Vice Chairman. The floor is once again open for discussion. Hearing none, then those in favor of this motion before us, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And that brings us to item 4 on the agenda, and this is the public comment. Now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. Anyone that would like to speak in public comment, again, the rules that we described before, you have 5 minutes. The green light will come on when your time begins. The yellow light will come on when you have about a minute left. And the red light will come on. You need to conclude your remarks. I have, I think, 5 signed up. First on my list is it Lisa Yao?
Did he say gal?
Yowell, yes.
Yao?
Yes, sir.
Welcome this evening, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Liza Yowell, and I'm requesting that Amanda Lotus and I share this 2-part speech. Earlier this year, on June 7th, Amanda Lotus and I addressed the Dare County Board of Commissioners requesting that a resolution opposing United Nations Agenda 21 be revisited and updated. Based on current world events, I find this document to be the most important resolution in the history of our county. A whole lot has happened in the world since the Dare County resolution was written in 2012, and a whole lot has happened within the 5 short months since we last addressed the board about updating it. A lot of people would like to believe that Dare County, and all of America for that matter, is a safe place to live. This is no longer the case. On April 26th, the Biden administration said there would be a federal mandate on COVID-19 vaccinations, but then on September 9th, he said there would be. Now many of our own neighbors, family, and friends have been faced with the grim choice: inject yourself with a vaccine that is still in clinical trials until 2023 and that does not prevent you from contracting and transmitting the virus, or else you lose your job, your means of feeding and providing for your family. Interestingly, this vaccine mandate does not apply to the congressional and judicial branches and staff, White House staff, employees within the CDC, FDA, USPS, NIAID, Pfizer, and Moderna, and it does not apply to illegal immigrants flooding the border. This is medical segregation. Those who are supporting medical apartheid do not understand how harmful this will be to our country. You may wonder why our government has taken every measure of manipulation and coercion they can think of to push a vaccine that is supposed to fight a virus with a 99% survival rate. In order to understand how all this relates to the resolution that Dare County approved, you need to understand that the United Nations holds an annual conference in Davos, Switzerland, called the World Economic Forum. It is at this meeting where world leaders, heads of state, and billionaires who massively profit from the pharmaceutical, food, and technology industries gather to discuss the fate of our world. The architect of this event is a man by the name of Klaus Schwab, who has written books about the World Economic Forum's comprehensive plan of extreme environmentalism, social engineering, and global political control. In fact, his last book was titled COVID-19, The Great Reset. The Great Reset is the same plan as Agenda 21. If you read Klaus Schwab's manifestos and listen to his speeches at the World Economic Forum's conferences, you can see his plans are unfolding in perfect lockstep before our very eyes. And I'd like to turn the rest over to Amanda Lotus, who's on the list next.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Lotus, welcome.
Thank you. In the 2012 resolution signed by Warren Judge, the Board of Commissioners recognized the destructive and insidious nature of the United Nations plan. It exposed the dangerous intent of the plan and urged communities to reject its radical and destructive strategies. Dare County even acknowledged in the whereas clauses that Agenda 21's intent was to declare national sovereignty a social injustice, and there should be a socialistic redistribution of wealth so that Americans should not own private property, homes, cars, farms, or make individual travel choices. Do you not see that this is the fate we are facing now? In New York City and Los Angeles, we are watching the unvaccinated barred from entering restaurants and bars and gyms. In Israel, the population that has not been jabbed can't go into grocery stores anymore to buy food. The closing of small businesses while big businesses are allowed to stay open, the border crisis, the trillion-dollar infrastructure bill, the lockdowns, masks, social media censorship, shipping crisis, inflation, the tax increases for the upper middle class, and hundreds of thousands around the world are protesting against lockdowns and vaccine mandates, but the mainstream news shows none of it. Why has this resolution now been tossed aside, forgotten, and no longer recognized? Because people are in fear, and they cannot see beyond that fear that our so-called leaders actually want division. There's no going back to normal. A color revolution is a basic communist maneuver that has been seeded by our own government to turn people against each other based on race, sex, political affiliation, health status, to bring forth government control. This never turns out well. It's divide and conquer. We were all taught in school, united we stand, divided we fall. Division is what Agenda 21 seeks to achieve, and unfortunately, with the help of media conglomerates, the program has been successful so far. I will repeat the quote from Soviet politician Nikita Khrushchev. "You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you'll finally wake up and find you already have communism. We won't have to fight you. We'll so weaken your economy until you'll fall like overripe fruit into our hands. We do not have to invade the United States. We will destroy you from within." Agenda 21 is unconstitutional, and it all goes against the freedoms and principles that my ancestors, our ancestors, fought to preserve. Therefore, I hope you will find it in your hearts to revisit Dare County Resolution number 120205, opposing you on Agenda 21, in order to protect our basic human rights and values. We hope to proclaim Dare County as a sanctuary county within the state of North Carolina that opposes the government's tyrannical overreach, medical apartheid, and segregation of any kind within the state of North Carolina. Once you do some research on this topic, you may find that you were put here on this board just for such a time as this that we're going through right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lotus. Appreciate it.
Next is Melanie Brewer.
Restate your name.
My name's Melanie Brewer.
Brewer.
I am a mother in Kill Devil Hills of three little girls.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer.
I appreciate that you all give us 5 minutes to speak for public comment, where when we're fighting for our children in the schools, we're only given 3 minutes. I'm going up the chain of command here, which is what I did when I was a nurse. I was a nurse for 10 years in the medical industry. It is an industry. They want your money. They want you on pharmaceuticals. They don't want to heal you. When we had a problem, we started with our charge nurse. We then went to the manager. We then went to the administration board. And here we've gone to the superintendent. We've gone to the principals. We've gone to the Board of Education, and nobody wants to hear us. So here I am today. Children are still wearing breathing restrictions, and I did some phone calls today as well as some emails to the health department to get some numbers for you guys. According to those health department statistics that I received today, and I have a question as to why we're not allowed access to the 2020 Dare County Health Department statistics. They only had up till 2019. We're almost a year later. We should have those numbers, so I'd like to get some answers on that. 16 people have died from COVID-19. I'm sorry for their loss of who they were. They were residents. I did ask that question. So since 16 have died this year alone, there's probably going to be around 20 people if we go at the same rate that we've gone. There could be less, there could be a few more, but there's not going to be 400. In 2019, 101 people died from diseases due to cardiac system failure. 101 people. That includes heart disease, hypertension, which are both preventable and curable with a plant-based diet. There's scientific research to prove that as well. Yet, all of our fast food restaurants that bring so much entertainment and fun to our town and to the country and now to the world actually feed garbage and trash to the people that are eating and consuming it. And that directly causes cardiac illness. Those foods have been proven to do so. So more people died from COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. In 2019, 45 deaths to 16 COVID deaths now. And COPD is almost always directly caused by cigarettes, yet we still sell them. So I ask all of you, why are we still masking children when no children have died here in Dare County at all? And you're more likely to die from cardiac illness, COPD, or diabetes, which was 24 people in 2019, than from COVID-19. All of those statistics that I also read for you, I can guarantee you have increased since 2019, since nationally we've gone up in obesity 27%. I motion to overrule the mandates being enforced on our children in this community, especially since the majority of people are no longer wearing or believing in this whole thing anymore anyways. If you go to the grocery store, if you go to the restaurants, if you go here, we're not wearing masks because we're moving on with our lives, guys. A lot of us have even had COVID-19, which gives you amazing benefits for a very long time. We need to stop this madness on our children, and I'm begging you. They are pushing communist, socialistic ideals. They are taking away our children's autonomy and freedom of speech to choose what's right for their body, to choose to breathe freely. There's children getting sick over and over and over again with headaches and nausea and vomiting. These are all signs of anoxia. That means they're not getting enough oxygen because they're continuously breathing in carbon dioxide. They're continuously breathing in the pathogens and the bacteria that are present on those masks that people are wearing. That's a hot, moist environment. That's just gonna grow more junk. That's gonna create more illness. You're gonna get the face rashes. You're gonna get it all. Please stop this and allow the parents to choose. At the beginning of 2021 school year in September, 55% of the parents did not send their kids to school with masks on. Why is the majority being denied here? Why are parents being denied their voices for any meeting for a Board of Education? Why were we not allowed to speak for multiple meetings at the Board of Education when we pay the taxes here? We pay for their jobs, we pay for all of your jobs, and we are losing our voices for this Agenda 21 proposal. What is happening, and why is everybody standing by and saying, well, it's just for a little while, or it's okay, or just do it, whether it gives you anxiety or whether it makes you uncomfortable, just do it anyways because it's for the betterment of your neighbor. Yet here's some more cardiac illness inducing foods, and here just continue taking and consuming instead of actually looking what the problem is. So I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate the extra time to continue to talk to you, and I appreciate you being here, but we really need people to stand up, and we do need to be a county of sanctuary within this state and this government, and remember that the power lies with the people. Thank you.
Next is Reese Decker.
Reese, welcome this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving us more than 3 minutes. Several of us, why we're here, I'm going to kind of repeat what I did the other night at the school board meeting, but we're here because 95% of our teachers have been vaccinated, and our children have a 99.974% chance of being just fine with COVID, and they're still being made to wear masks. I watch football games on Saturday. I know you guys do. There's University of Tennessee, there's 100,000 people in there. Nobody's wearing masks. Our children are the smallest, lowest segment of the population that can get and die of COVID, yet they're collateral damage for money in politics. We're here because of the ESSER fund money, which if you guys don't know, I know y'all know about it, but y'all need to start doing some homework on ESSER fund money and all the strings that are attached to it. We're here because of ESSER fund money, and Superintendent Farley and the Teachers Association has put that money ahead of our kids at the expense of the mandates. They're collateral damage for politics and money. 0 children in Dare County and an unknown amount by HHS. I tried to get Sheila Davies. I emailed her. She said she'd get back. Non-data with North Carolina. 0 children have died in Dare County of COVID. We don't know the number of children that have died in North Carolina from 0 to 18. But what we do know, more kids in North Carolina have committed suicide since the start of COVID than kids that have gotten COVID and died in the state. In 2020, same deal. We couldn't get 2020. We couldn't get 2021. There were 109 adolescent suicides in the state. We figured that out because the suicide rate's gone up 50%, 50.6%, based on the 2019 numbers. They told us it's gone up 50.6%. They didn't give the actual number, but that's going back to last year's number. So at least 109 adolescent suicides in the state. Every mental health facility in the state of North Carolina is full with adolescent children whose mental health has been affected by the mandates and closures. We're here because Sheila Davies, who makes $132,000 a year, who was not elected, and Dr. Farley, the superintendent, who we pay $200,000 a year, tell us that our kids need to stay masked up. Both of them, especially Sheila, will list CDC data on why our kids should stay in masks and quarantine, but neither of them, and they've both been asked via email, CC to all the school board members, neither of them can tell us how many children in the state of North Carolina have died of COVID since the start of COVID, and neither of them can tell us how many children have committed suicide, adolescent children, since the start of COVID. That's astounding. We're here also because doctor after doctor after doctor at places like Stanford, the Cleveland Institute, Johns Hopkins. I've got the head lung surgeon from the University of Kentucky fishes with me. He'll look you right in the eye and say, kids don't need to wear masks. This is the head lung surgeon. Sheila Davies, who was not elected, who apparently is the god of everything, she picks and chooses the data that fits the agenda passed down by Roy Cooper and company, selectively choosing the science that supports the ESSER fund guidelines. And you guys, again, need to do your homework on ESSER funds because there's a lot of strings attached. And there's, I don't even know where, I've got something on here from the school tool board kit. Quick. I'm running out of time. The updated strong school board NC Public Health Kit aligned with Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, which urges keeping students in schools for in-person learning while wearing masks and mandating quarantines. There is a student at Manio High School that got out of quarantine early because of a positive antibody test. We passed that on to Dr. Farley and asked him, why can't every kid in the state of North Carolina get a positive antibody test? Because that would greatly reduce the number of quarantines. Farley told me that 200, the test is too expensive. There's $8.75 million in ESSER fund money. 20% is mandated to go towards correcting things from COVID. The other 80% is a broad spectrum as to what Dr. Farley can do. Based on the amount of students in Dare County, 5,200 or whatever it is, it'd be $1,040,000. We can take that out of the $8.75 million of ESSER funds and put it towards the kids. It's supposed to be for the kids. And if you do a positive antibody test on every kid in the state of North Carolina, your quarantine numbers are going to go from here to here. There's not a doctor in the country that won't tell you that getting COVID and surviving and having the positive antibodies is better than any vaccine that anybody can give you. Find me a doctor that would tell you contrary to that. And we're tired of going to school board meetings and the school board not having the guts to do the right thing, like these other counties, like Union County and Beaufort County, that have gone back to what the parents voted on. You said 55%. I thought it was 63%. Either way, we've made it clear that we want to have the choice for our kids. If we want them to wear a mask, they can wear a mask. If my daughter wants to wear a mask, she can wear a mask. But if we don't want them to, they shouldn't have to. It's based on the science. My daughter...
Mr. Stacker, your time is up. Please get to the end.
My daughter ran track in 8th grade and 7th grade. She came in 2nd place in a mile. I told her at the end of the race, you're the man next year. Everybody's going to be gunning for you. I never in a million years thought she was going to do what she did. She ran 3 miles every single day from the end of that year to the start of the next year. She looked up what the school record was. They got 1 outdoor track meet in. 1 outdoor track meet, they canceled the whole track season. She was devastated. We couldn't even do outdoor track. Last but not least, the way I understand it, you guys are in charge of the budget. You guys are in charge of allocating the ESSER fund money. If this money is really for the kids, then that positive antibody test would be the first step in getting all our kids back in school. Because if you do that test and all the kids, your quarantine numbers are going to go from here to here. I promise you. Because 6 months ago, when somebody's kid had the sniffles, they had COVID. The kids don't get sick like older people get sick. They get over it like that. Please consider adding the positive antibody test, mandating that the school budget does not go through unless they do that, so we can get all our kids back in school. Thank you.
Anyone else here would like to speak in public comment? Any other comments? Any comments from Buxton?
No comment from Buxton.
Mr. Chairman, that would end the public comment. That moves us to item 5 on the agenda. That's the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes. You have the 5311 designee certification for the fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2027 amended budget. You have the resolution of the County of Dare for the NC for the LEOSSA trust participation in AGPIP. You have the Health and Human Services Public Health Division Bright Ideas Grant. You have the Health and Human Services Public Health Division Trillium RX Grant. You have the Tax Collector's Report. You have the Health and Human Services funding for transportation to COVID-19 vaccine sites. And you have the Emergency Management Budget Amendment.
All right, thank you, County Manager. What's the pleasure of the board and the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the consent agenda, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Chairman, that brings you to your board appointments. The first is the Rodanthe-Waves-Salvo Community Center. The terms for Jason Brian Healig and Roberta Midget expire next month. Both would like to be reappointed.
Move to reappoint.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman Overman to reappoint. Is there a second? Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Older Adult Services Advisory Council. The terms of Cynthia Harris and Claudia Hennessy expire in November. Both are recommended for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobin to reappoint.
Second.
Is seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Dare County Tourism Board for the town of Kitty Hawk. Jeff Pruitt's not eligible for reappointment as he served 2 terms. The town of Kitty Hawk have submitted 3 names in suggested order of preference: Councilman David Hines, Councilwoman Lynn McQueen, and Mayor Pro Tem Craig Garris.
Motion to appoint David Hines.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bateman to appoint David Hines to the Visitors Bureau from Kitty Hawk, and it's been seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next would be the Hatteras Island Member at Large. Donna Peel has resigned for health reasons. The board's been provided the applications of Dennis Robinson for consideration to complete her term until December of 2022.
Move to appoint Robinson, please.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch.
Second.
Mr. Robinson has been seconded by Commissioner House and Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Dare County Commissioner seat. Commissioner Bateman's term expires in December of 2021. He is eligible for reappointment for another term.
Move to reappoint.
Motion to reappoint Commissioner Bateman to the Visitors Bureau from the Dare County Board of Commissioners by Commissioner House. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Chairman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And finally, as your member at large, Tim Cafferty's seat is expiring, and he is eligible for reappointment for another term.
Move to reappoint.
Motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman to reappoint Tim Cafferty, and it's been seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, once again, unanimous.
And that would be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 7, and that's County Manager's business as well as Commissioner business. I will call on the County Manager first.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of things. One is I'm not sure if we talked about this as a board or whether a few of you talked to me about this individually, but we talked about some upgrades and some remodeling and some things that we need to do to spruce up our recreation centers. And we've asked Oakley Collier to give us a quote to do that architectural work do that. He's done that. It's $47,000, and I need, if you're prepared to move forward with that, I need approval to move forward with that work with Oakley Collier.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Couch. Is there a second?
Second.
second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman and House. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is, we've talked to you at several meetings. We've talked individually with some of you as well about our recycling program and the issues we're having staffing in our sanitation department. In talking with Shanna and the folks over there, we're trying to find a way to try to move recycling, at least make it better than it is now. We were required to close a number of our recycling locations because we just didn't have the staff to man them or pick them up. We're down to 2 people left in a recycling staff that was originally 7. And so we're struggling to do what we're doing. One option that we have and that we're looking at is we're thinking of maybe trying to, I'll just use Rodanthe, for example, trying to open Rodanthe back up, but on a more limited scale where we don't have the great big roll-off boxes, but we have the recycled trailers that we have, and then try to find a way to do that. We have a big problem in Rodanthe with people dumping non-recyclables and not following the rules, and if that occurs, then we'd have to close it back up because we don't have the staff to clean up behind them. But we want to try to give the community an opportunity to recycle up there more conveniently than what we're doing now. To accomplish that, one other thing that we need to do would be to try to do an RFP out in the private sector for someone to haul the recycling. One of our big problems is we don't have drivers and we can't get CDL licensed drivers, and so we can't haul the recycling. And if we could get an outside hauler to come in and just haul it, then we could man it, we could get them out there, we could do the things we needed to do, but someone else could haul them away and we don't have to handle it, which is what that other 5 people on the staff did, was handle that recycling. To send out that RFP, I need your approval to move in that direction. And if you are, then we'll get that going and see where it leads us.
Move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman to approve a RFP for recycling headers.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion?
Is that the kind of thing that can be done with like a 1-ton pickup, or do you actually need a CDL, an outside vendor?
Yeah, if we're going to pick it up with our equipment, they require CDL licenses. An outside vendor would be whatever they're licensed to do. I mean, if the vehicle's small enough and they make enough trips, I suppose you don't have to have a CDL, but I don't think that's practical.
Okay, I was curious. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
In a similar vein, we typically do large item pickup in the spring. We typically do that in-house. What we do is we pull our recycle people off of recycling. We take whatever other staff we have in sanitation that's available, and they do it in-house, and we pick it up and we haul it and we sort it and we move it. Again, with our staff limitations, there's no way we're going to be able to do large item pickup in the spring. And so we're trying to get an early jump on it. If we still want to do that in the spring, then once again, we're looking at, could we do an RFP to see what it would cost us to do that? We've talked with our debris company that we use in hurricanes. Now, they're FEMA reimbursed and all that, but they have the scale available to do that kind of thing. Again, depending on how much debris people put out during that and whether they put it out correctly or not and all those kinds of things, our costs on that are somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000. Haven't talked to Dave about how we would pay for that, but I thought if we were going to move forward with that, then we should go ahead and do the RFP now, get it out there so that we have plenty of time to let the public know either we are going to do it or we aren't going to do it. And if we can't do it, then they have time to make other arrangements when they come down to get their houses ready, for the tourist season next year. And so I need permission to move forward with an RFQ for the large item, or an RFP for the large item pickup as well.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner
Move,
Couch?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Commissioner Couch made the motion. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then the last thing, when we were looking at the youth center and we purchased that Masonic Lodge, we also looked at doing some things possibly over at Westcott Park. I got an inquiry last week from a gentleman that owns some property over there that I think his brother owned and he inherited it, and he'd like to dispose of that property and wanted to know, are we interested in it? It adjoins the park. The value of it's about between $80,000 and $100,000. I didn't know if we were interested in looking into that or whether we are finished at Westcott Park and aren't interested any longer, but it's an opportunity. I know that we had looked at some property over there once before and we passed on it. Again, given our discussions have now changed as what we were going to do at Westcott Park, whether that's changed anything or whether we should look at this or not. So I need just some guidance. Is that something worth doing, or should I tell the fellow, we're not interested, and let him move on down the road and not hold him up?
Bobby, we'd look at something over there for some storage or something at one time.
We looked at it for storage. We talked about it for parking. We talked about it for a number of things. We chose not to do anything. If we'd have been having this discussion, 6 or 8 months ago, Mr. Chairman, we might have been interested because we were talking about expanding it. And then this other property where we're going to move the youth center came available and was a better opportunity for us, so we went in a different direction. We do have some parking issues there, but again, Westcott Park, we don't own it. We lease it from the Lions Club, and so if we purchase it, we would own whatever this lot is or these lots are adjacent to Westcott Park. Now, we could use it for parking and that kind of thing, or if we needed a place to build storage, but it's not something that I would say is pressing. We haven't gotten requests from Parks and Rec to add space or that kind of thing. So again, I told the gentleman that I would run it up the flag with you. I didn't have a specific idea or a need for it, and wanted to be sure my thinking was the same as yours.
Can we see a plat of it at some point?
We could.
I'm looking at it online. How many lots is that, Bobby? Is it?
I think it's just one. It's an $80,000 parcel, I think, on the tax records.
I
How much
see it.
acreage?
How big is it, Danny? I can't.
It is.
I'm guessing.
3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, 3/4 of it. It's a lot size. So it doesn't give us a lot of parking. It doesn't really, unless you're going to go buy a bunch of them, it doesn't do much for us at all. So not hearing anything, I'm going to tell him we don't really have an interest and he needs to do whatever he needs to do with it.
Well, a year ago, we might have been interested. We didn't have an alternative for the Benio youth, but I think we've got a better deal now for them that we've already stepped up to the plate.
Good point.
And made commitments to, unless the county sees a need for.
I don't. And that's what I told him. But
Parks
he asked
and
me to
Rec.
please present it to you all, and I told him that I would. So,
Yeah.
okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to Commissioner's business. And Commissioner Couch, will you lead that office evening?
Yes, thank you. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security just because we're 30 days out from the end of hurricane season, because I would remind this board and everybody in this county, Superstorm Sandy on November 13th, 2012, and what a mess that was. So let's not let our guard down, and it's an extreme weather environment, hurricane season. There's, like the song says, there's no reason with hurricane season. So did enjoy looking at the report that came out of was actually pleasantly surprised. Our taxable sales was a very significant number. Don't want to, I'd like to talk to David or Sally about that at one time, but bottom line is the growth that we've seen in fiscal year 2020 is just, I don't know else how to put it other than it's just nuts. It's a good problem to have. Off the charts, unbelievable. And Jim, I'm hoping that, you know, with the success you've had with the task force and the dredge and everything, Dare County Waterways, we struggle with a lot of issues. Our most significant responsibility is Hatteras Inlet, but I'm hoping at some point that you'd be available to come talk to us.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay. And last but not least, we're going to be seeing the Rodanthe Bridge done here pretty quickly. I think we've got an opportunity to do something, or DOT, when I say us, it would be DOT, it would be the collective Outer Banks community and DOT, to do something that can commemorate our heritage here on the Outer Banks, as we've done with the Virginia Dare Bridge, the Wright Bridge, the Newman Bridge, Bass Knife Bridge. So looking forward to it. It's first quarter 2022 is going to be here real soon. And that's all I've got, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Gallo. Commissioner Bateman.
Commissioner Bateman's just glad to be here.
Thank you.
I have nothing to share.
Thank you. Vice Chairman?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner House?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your opening comments, you mentioned Miss Virginia Tillett, and she is will be sorely missed by her family and also her extended family of Dare County. Ms. Tillett was one of those people that as soon as you met her, shook her hand, and within 2 sentences into your conversation with her, you realized you just met a very dear friend. And my heart goes out to her family, and she will sorely be missed. Also, I am also sad to report one of our captains who was retired from Dare County EMS, Bob Carter, was in an accident this past week, and he succumbed to his injuries.
Oh my gosh.
And Bob was very instrumental in Dare County EMS and bringing it to what it is today. He's been retired for several years. He was actually one of the, if he wasn't one of the founding members, he was in the first or second class of it, I can tell you that. And he was an avid sailor. And Bob, if you're out there listening, happy seas, man. You've well deserved, and you'll be missed here as well. Also sad to announce Colin Powell passed away today. He was an American diplomat, 4-star general, served as the 65th United States Secretary of State, and was the first African-American Secretary of State. He was also chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he served as the 16th United States National Security Advisor. Colin Powell was instrumental in a lot of the diplomacy that is out today and a lot of the ways that our military carries out their actions, and he will also be missed in this country. On a brighter side, Metro Aviation. They're an international company that deals with aeromedical transportation. And October 10th of this year, they put out a recognition. Dare County is recognized as an innovative pioneer in providing aeromedical transportation services. Dare MedFlight represents the vision and commitment of the Dare County Board of Commissioners in providing rapid medical transportation for its residents and visitors. Dare County has been one of the very few county-owned aeromedical operations in the entire nation. So I want to thank them for recognizing us, and not only the Dare County Board of Commissioners, but also the flight crew of Dare MedFlight. It is definitely an innovative pioneer in aeromedical transportation, which started back in 1975 with a H-1 Huey that was brought back from Vietnam and outfitted for medical transportation at that time, and since then it has grown and adapted, and now we have one of the utmost state-of-the-art aeromedical helicopters in flight at this time. Our day in history, 1967, a Russian unmanned spacecraft makes the first landing on the surface of Venus, and gave a lot of insight of what the surface of Venus was like. And although being with Russia at the time, a lot of scientific fact that they discovered still hasn't been released to the general world, but just to know that that did take place. On a very happy note, as I think all of us can agree on our evening meetings, our pet of the week, this is Roger.
Our pet of the week for this week is Roger. This sweet boy came to us from another shelter. Roger was emaciated and clearly not taken care of in his past life. Even though Roger did not feel good, he gave us all the kisses and loves to give hugs. His entire body will wiggle when he sees people, and he has the best head tilt. Roger is gaining weight and feels much better. He could go home with a family and another dog. To adopt Roger or foster one of our other animals, you can come visit us Tuesday through Sunday at our shelter located in Manteo. This week, join us here at the shelter for a volunteer orientation Saturday the 23rd at 11 a.m. This is a brilliant opportunity to get involved with helping our cats and dogs. For more information, visit our website at www.obxspca.org or visit our OBX SPCA Facebook page.
So please, if you have a chance, run up to the SPCA, check out Roger, and check out the other animals they have there. Give someone there a forever home. This is worthwhile, and they have had plenty of adoptions here in the last few weeks. And I can't tell you how much it is to get a dog or a cat from the SPCA that really needs a home. And you will not believe the love and attention they will give you back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner House. Commissioner Ross is not with us this evening. He's under the weather, so that brings us to last but certainly not least, Commissioner Tobin.
Well, thank you. I guess I'll start off with some of the bad news that I got this week. The long-term care ombudsman's program, the CAC board that I serve on. I said in the last meeting how the federal government had revamped the program and gave a lot more requirements of the volunteers on what their training programs were going to have to be. And they sent out a letter to all of us volunteers that we had to sign and send back saying that we had agreed to the changes and that we would take on extra responsibility and take on another, I don't know, I think it adds up to like 25 hours of training every year, plus 10 hours every year of additional training. It's a lot. I'm sad to say that there's 5 people on our committee, 4 people resigned. I'm the only person who signed the letter.
Wow.
So we really don't have a committee right now. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we are patient advocates for the people at Peak Resources and Spring Harbor. So right now, there's no program, basically. And the reason that everybody was given that was why they resigned was because since COVID, we have not been allowed into either facility. We've all had vaccine shots, and we've all agreed to wear masks or whatever it takes to go in and be advocates and make sure that the people aren't being taken advantage of. But the ombudsman for the state, they're just not allowing it. So hopefully we can get through this. Hopefully we can find some people in our community that are willing to step up and serve and help out the elderly and help out the people that are in there. It's really important, and they do get taken advantage of. It's very, yeah.
Well, it's concerning, Jim.
Hang on.
No, hold.
I recognize you.
I apologize. No, my bad.
How are you able to help and advocate if you're not allowed to go in?
Exactly.
That's the point.
I would be willing to join a committee for that because I was always a huge patient advocate within my nursing career.
I would love to talk to you about it after the meeting.
Absolutely, but
okay.
As long as you can go in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're pushing hard,
yeah.
But right now it's still hands off.
Okay.
So,
right now, both of our facilities in the county, you have to wear a mask. You also have to make an appointment. And I know, I'm not sure about Spring Arbor, but I know that Peak Resources, you can only meet outside or in a conference room with the patient. So, and I know my mother was at Spring Arbor for 2.5 years, so that was the case there during COVID. Now she's at Peak, but that's Peak's rules. They're a little bit less lenient, but this group that Jim speaks of is crucial because it's checks and balances, and we need that in these facilities. So it's important. I'm sorry, sorry to hear that 4 or 5.
I was real sad when I found that out.
I'll have to speak with our public information officer. Maybe we can get something out that we're in need of some volunteers for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, on the good side, County Manager Bobby and Dave Halleck, the Superintendent of the National Park Service, and myself attended the first Waters Conference in Greenville, put on by Congressman Murphy and Congressman Rouser. It was the brain trust of people that knew everything about floodwaters in eastern North Carolina, a lot of PhDs. They spoke for how long, Bobby? 7 hours, basically?
All day.
All day long. It was a long conference. It was very educational. I felt like I should get a master's degree or something now.
And listening.
But we met, well, it was really good interacting. We talked about thin layer placement of dredge materials, and like you all know, we have to find areas for our dredge spoils for all channels for coming up. So afterwards, I spoke to a couple people that were the experts in it, and also to Colonel Bennett from the Corps of Engineers, and we're going to try to get a meeting together and talk about thin layer placement in our marshes to fortify the marshes, and also kind of alleviate some of our dredge spoil issues. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Tobin. All right, that ends Commissioner's business. I would ask our Public Information Officer, Ms. Hester, do you have anything for us this evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And dogs are undefeated. She's happy.
The dogs.
Georgia Bulldogs.
I know. They look good.
They are
look
that.
good.
With that, Mr. Clausen's not with us this evening, and Mr. Fosse had to leave early. So with that being said, I need a motion to adjourn until November 1 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobin. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.